Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Run in the Paint podcast, a two-man show today. Joey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to hold down the fort, just the two of us.
Yes, no Jackson, no Nick today, unfortunately. Jackson's roommates are being jerks, so he's unable to record with us. And Nick, he is very sick and tired after, working super hard to get the Run in the Paint podcast on Spotify.
We are now a podcast that you can listen to on Spotify. How about that, folks?
I know, unbelievable. So I have it on the screen. It's just the Run in the Paint podcast on Spotify. I'll have the link in the description down below. So super big stuff there to finally have that going. But it has been a hectic week to say the least, Joey. I'm excited to get into all this stuff.
There was a lot of stuff happening, especially after our last episode on Tuesday.
Even during the recording
on Monday,
of our episode. Oh my goodness. I guess let's start off with the stuff that happened Monday night really quickly, because it was a little while ago. But as we were recording, we had Joel Embiid scoring 70 points on the San Antonio Spurs, becoming, I believe, the 9th player in history to score 70 in a game. It was unbelievable.
That was incredible. That he literally couldn't miss.
I know, he might have just we did our mid-season awards like this time last week, and we were split on the MVP. This might have just moved him right up the ladder, man.
If he doesn't miss enough games to where it'll cancel out because of that new rule, this is locked up. This is locked up.
I know. His numbers are now 36.1 points per game, 11.6 rebounds, and 5.9 assists. It's incredible stuff he's doing.
He's having a better year than he did last year, and he won MVP. And they're in the same position, like team wise, and without Harden. It's literally just, I know they have a better, I would say almost a better overall team around him, or at least comparable. But when you go from Maxey, Harden, and Embiid just to Maxey and Embiid, and you take out a former MVP in that mix, and you're still putting up these numbers and winning, that's most valuable to me.
Yeah, for sure. At the beginning of the season, when we all did our standings predictions, we were all unanimously saying that the Sixers were going to be the 5th seed, and they have been a top 3 lock in the East for the whole season, and that's probably where they will finish, in that either 2 or 3 spot, with them in Milwaukee battling it out. But Joel Embiid, man, just having a historic season, stuff that we really haven't seen much of before, a center being able to shoot all these mid-range jump shots and even threes like he's been doing on a consistent basis.
I haven't seen this much range from a big man like that since probably I'll put Duncan in there just because of his mid-range game was unstoppable, at least in my opinion. But Olajuwon as well, all the fades and shots that he would do, it's very Olajuwon-esque. But scoring wise, Embiid is, I'll even put him above Olajuwon.
Yeah, for volume of shots. When he first came into the league and he was doing all the pull-up mid-range shots, the fadeaways, he reminded me a lot of even a prime LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yeah,
just because mid-range beast in the post, but he can even shoot threes. He's just incredible.
What's his percentage from 3? If you have that,
percentage from 3, I'll pull it up right now. I'm pretty sure it's at 36%.
Anything for a big man at his volume of shooting, anything over 33-34% is honestly solid, because I don't know. That means you're dangerous.
He's at 36 from 3, and even the 89% on 12 free throws per game. I mean, we know how a lot of people, especially Jackson, are he gets to the free throw line.
Can't say anything about it, especially on Monday. How many free throws did he shoot on Monday, was it?
Well, he shot 20-something free throws, but that's still, 40?
Oh, no, he dropped down to 50 points. Oh, no.
Ridiculous. ridiculous.
Come on.
Ridiculous
Gaga
stuff.
would be having a field day right now, but no, you got to give Embiid his
He
props.
was even in the group chat during the game. He was even like, "Man, I'm even impressed with it. This is something else."
This is something unprecedented we even see, and we've been talking about like big men like with this kind of caliber and skill set for the last couple of years between him and Jokic, and now he's even outdoing that.
Yeah, and well, so on the same night, we also had Karl Anthony Towns going crazy in the first half. He had 44 points in the first half, but the Timberwolves lost their focus and lost it to the Charlotte Hornets. Out of all teams, the Hornets.
That is so shocking. Karl Anthony Towns, everyone's been talking about, especially like, I don't know, even me, like saying that the Timberwolves, they're going to have to, even though Cat is insanely talented, this is Anthony Edwards' team. Like, this is Ant Edwards' team. However good he does is how well that team is going to, like, their potential is going to be.
Right.
But then you have Cat coming back showing, like, years ago when he was, like, a number 1 overall pick, dropping and just dropped, what, like 62 points?
Yeah,
but then they still lost. Like, look, that's what happens. He puts up these numbers. It's almost like what we saw back when he was early on. He would have all these insane stats, but they just don't win when they go to him like that. I don't know why. I don't know how, but like
it was just because they were trying to feed him the ball. Like he's been having a really good season. Like honestly, as we're recording this, they're announcing the All-Star starters. Next week, they were announcing the reserves. We didn't have him on any of our All-Star ballots, but I could see a world where he's an All-Star because, like, they were just the number 1 seed before OKC overtook them last night. And he's been, like, 22 points, 9 rebounds, shooting 44% from 3. It's incredible numbers for a second option.
Yeah, he is nuts. That's why, like, Timberwolves are a scary, scary team. Scary team.
They definitely could be, but like I said in the last episode, you could see where that rough offense could prove to be a bit of a challenge for them in the postseason.
As I say, you get 62 points out of Cat, and again, like you said, in the first half he went off. He dropped like 30 in the first quarter, like 20 something in the second, and then in the second half he only had like 18 points combined.
Well, yeah, it was just it was
like or like 60 or something like that, and nobody else did anything. Like Ant Edwards, I remember we were like in the group chat because Gogolin has him on his fantasy team, and he was just like, "Can someone give Ant the ball, please? Stop giving it to Cat." Because
he wasn't that aggressive though, too. Like he wasn't.
They were just
aggressive.
feeding him the ball. And shout out to the coach, because even the coach came out in the press conference and said, "Hey man, great night by Cat, but like we don't do well when we just feed the ball like that. It's just not how it's going to work."
Yeah, for sure.
And it did it.
Yeah, and having 9 points, that's
doesn't matter. I was going to say, between your first 2 options, doesn't matter how many points Cat scores. If even with that, you only combine 70 points between those 2 guys, which is still a lot. But for between those 2 options, if you want a big night and want to win consistently, you got to almost have like 80 to 90.
You just need equal shot distribution. Like I'm looking at the box score now because I didn't even realize how bad it was. Cat attempted 35 shots. The next highest shot attempts was Anthony Edwards, who took 11, 3 for 11. And that's it. Those are the only 2 players that shot over 9 times. It's just poor shot distribution there.
Yeah.
But, moving on, let's move to the bigger news of the week before we get back to some of these games, these crazy games. The biggest news of the week, after on the last episode when one of my statements or questions was, will this be a season where we don't have any coach firings this season? And less than 24 hours later, Adrian Griffin fired from the Milwaukee Bucks just 43 games into his first season. Joey, what did you think of this when you first saw this?
I got to give a shout out to Jackson, our buddy. He was the only one that called it. He called that, nailed it right on the coffin. Like it was, I did not expect it to be like that And even I've lived through that because being a Cleveland fan, the only other coach to have like a better record or just as good of a record as Adrian Griffin did in his first year or in a season halfway through was David Blatt back in 15-16. Like
Yeah.
I did not expect it to be that, but looking at the numbers, the writing was kind of on the wall.
It was like I've been saying it the most over the last few weeks how the Bucks, like, with the way they've been playing, like, I don't see them as much of a threat because of how badly they've been playing. And I've got some defensive numbers in the month of January, bottom 10 in a ton of huge categories, and they had the third worst defensive rating in January before the firing, 24th in the league in opposing paint points, 24th in fast break points. They gave up the 23rd, well, I guess the 7th worst offensive rebounds, and they were 30th in turnovers forced. They were not forcing turnovers, worst in the league in January, and they were just slowly getting by because of their offense, because their offense has been great. That has not been the problem. It's been their defense.
And that's something like, I know obviously they fired Adrian Griffin, but like when you talk about defensive stuff like that, you're looking towards your leader who's a former MVP, former defensive player of the year, former NBA champion, Giannis Antetokounmpo. And even though they're trying to like figure out, and they did bring in a new coach, and they're bringing out because again they had an interim lined up, but hours later it was, oh yeah, we're bringing in Doc Rivers.
Doc Rivers.
But I think you got to put a little bit on Giannis, a little pressure on him. He's got to get this team ready to go. He has got to lead. And again, he's a great defensive player, so leading by example is good, but like he's got to push these other players, his whole team around, because it's not just him that's needs to play better defense.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest blaring problem with their defense, well, two things is one, their transition defense has been awful, and their drop coverage hasn't worked as much this season. You know, they would always play with Brook Lopez in the drop coverage, but Damian Lillard and Malik Beasley just were not maneuvering around screens defensively, which would just leave a guy wide open for a shot coming off a screen or a little that in between mid-range game. It's just been rough for the Bucks. Like I've looked at their schedule in the month of January, and they just have some rough games. Like they lost at home to Utah. They were down by like 30 points at halftime at home. Losing to the Rockets, the Pacers twice, obviously the Cavs by 40, even though you don't have Giannis. This is a team that with Lillard, Middleton, Lopez, former champions on that team and all-star players, you should not be coming out as flat as you are in those situations.
You can't, when you compare, especially with that Cleveland game, you got Dame versus Donovan. Then you got Brooke versus Allen. We're missing players too. Like it was both teams were like, I know you're missing Giannis, but the Cavs are missing their second and third best players.
Yeah, and even their wins as well. Like, they played Boston. They beat Boston by 33, but that was the night after the Celtics had played that hard overtime game against the Timberwolves. So they really didn't play their guys in
the back-to-back
second half. Just a tough schedule for them. They beat the Warriors without Steph Curry. They beat the Kings on the Damian Lillard game winner where they nearly blew the game. And then they were the big thing was on Sunday or what might have been Saturday and Monday. Yeah, Saturday and Monday. They played 2 straight games in Detroit against the Pistons, and they were both close the whole way.
Gosh, yeah. Those were brutal games. And if you're close, it's the same thing we were talking about Minnesota with losing to Charlotte of all teams. It's the same thing with the Bucks. Even if it's close and you win those games, it doesn't matter. That's a team that has literally 5 wins on the entire season. 5 wins on the season. You have 30. That shouldn't be close.
And there you see, like, the margin between a team like the Bucks in that scenario and the Celtics.
Yeah.
Even though the Pistons were close with the Celtics that one game when they were on the losing streak, for the most part, the Celtics, they don't play with their food. Like when
No.
when they are that much better than a team, they blow them out and it's not even a contest. Like I know ahead of time, okay, I don't have to watch that game because I just know the Celtics are going to dominate.
Yeah, they are. The Bucks have definitely, especially recently, have been a team that plays down to the competition and doesn't. And they play up to the competition, like you said, when they play the Celtics, even though it was a back-to-back and they blow them out. Like they played up to the competition and even surpassed it. But when you play down to the competition, and when you're talking about championship teams, that does not work, because when you play down to the competition, if one of those days you're going to play down to the competition and it's going to be against a really, really good team, and it's just not going to work.
And it could cost you, like that the loss against the Jazz, or if they lost one of those to the Pistons, like that could cost you like a home court advantage in a second round series with the Sixers or something like that. And that could be really huge.
That's the thing. This was kind of a crucial time because like they had to do it now if they were going to fire him, because the Celtics kind of have a hold on that first seed right now. Bucks are still within striking distance, like 3 games, but the way Celtics are playing, you never know. But the Sixers are only a game behind them.
Yeah, the Sixers are creeping
and with Embiid dropping 70, like they're playing their best basketball.
Yeah, for sure. And
this was the time to do it if they were going to do it. So
it was for sure. And you were saying with Adrian Griffin getting fired with the records, like I have here, I look back, the best records for midseason coach firings, it's David Blatt at the 30-11, back in the 2015-16 season with the Cavaliers,
which the Cavs did end up going to win the championship.
Yes, they did. I find it great though that when Blatt was fired, that was January 22nd. And Griffin got fired January 23rd. So
literally a day apart.
Yeah, exactly. But other than that, like I have on this graphic, like you have coaches in the 50s and the 80s that were fired like 10 games into the season. And then you have Donnie Nelson there with the Spurs back in 91, 92.
This is very unprecedented territory.
It's very unprecedented territory. This type of stuff like does not happen. Adrian Griffin, I was even looking at because I was like, man, 30-13, that's a pretty good winning percentage. I wonder how that stacks up to coaches in NBA history. He's third in the modern era in winning percentage among coaches behind Phil Jackson and Joe Mazzulla, because but it's just one of those funny things there. And I
am curious. What do you think about the hiring of Doc Rivers to replace him?
Yeah, let's get into the Doc Rivers thing. The full details of the contract finally came out this morning. It's for $40.5 million for 3.5 seasons, including this one. Personally, I like it. I've been seeing everyone be like, "Oh, Doc Rivers."
There's been a lot of hate against him.
And rightfully so. I have right here, his playoff failures. Every single season since the Clipper days, when they have been, a competent contending team, they have not made it to a conference finals. Like you have the last 3 seasons with the Sixers. Last year they were up 3-2 on Boston, lost the next 2 games. They were the number 1 seed and lost to the Trae Young the Hawks that one year. You have the Clippers, of course, the blown 3-1 lead to Denver in the bubble, the blown 3-1 lead to Houston in 2015. A couple playoff losses when you're the higher seeded team. I know injuries were a factor there, but the playoff struggles with Doc Rivers have been very well documented.
Yeah.
Especially over the last few weeks. But if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, and this is a championship or bust team, obviously, with this type of move, firing a coach midway through the season, and you're looking for coaches that have veteran experience, championship experience. He's really the only guy that was out there on the market. Like you could even tell, like Woj was like, they didn't have a plan B if they didn't get Doc Rivers. This was the guy that they wanted. You heard reports that like guys like Jeff Van Gundy, Nate McMillan were maybe in the mix, but it was Doc Rivers through and through. And if that was your guy, then I like it. I like it because there's really not many more experienced coaches on the market other than guys like Mike D'Antoni. But if like we're talking about how bad their defense is, Mike D'Antoni's
That's not going to
have
happen.
that. he's going to do the opposite. So I think that in this situation that they're in, because like at this point, most experienced head coaches have a job at this point. So
Yeah.
I like it. What do you think?
I am kind of on the same wavelength as you. If they needed to make a change, which they thought they did, and they fired Adrian Griffin, and especially with a team like them, championship or bust, they need somebody with experience. Again, that experience is a long, long time ago now with the championship experience. Like, I don't know if you saw that clip of Gilbert Arenas going off about it, but I did, and he was just going through all this stuff about Doc Rivers and how he's had no success since that 2009 season,
since 2008.
Yeah, like he just hasn't had that type of playoff success. But when you're talking about a championship or bust team, you need that coach with experience and again, defensive like smarts and all that kind of stuff. And again, there are not many great options, especially in the middle of the season. Maybe next year or a couple of years or something like that, if his contract is done or if they fire him before his contract is done, who knows? Right now they're paying Doc Rivers, Budenholzer, and Adrian Griffin.
Yeah, they have three coaches. They have three salaries on their payroll right now.
Yeah, and they were not going to bring back Budenholzer, who is the only other coach out there that probably has championship experience and more recent one, but you're not going to bring him back. Yeah. But there's not many great options out there. It was really
I think this is as good as it could have gotten. Now, question I have for you, does this reflect badly on Giannis Antetokounmpo for pushing to hire Adrian Griffin? Because like he wanted Adrian Griffin really badly. He kind of Mike Budenholzer was fired at the end of last season. How do you think this looks on Giannis?
I am going to be extremely critical of Giannis. I think Giannis is a stellar player, one of the best players in the entire world, and he is rightfully so always an MVP candidate. However, especially with their defense and stuff, like I've already said, he's that leader of that team. He's a former defensive player of the year, former MVP. He's got to put the pressure on. You can't just blame the coach. And again, I don't think he did. He came out and said that it was kind of a surprise that they fired him, which again, I don't know how much of a surprise that is, especially since you're a former MVP, defensive player of the year, NBA champion. You're the franchise player. They're going to talk to you. Same thing why David Blatt probably got fired, because LeBron knew that he's not the guy.
Yeah, the star player is gonna have the final say on this sort of stuff. Like, I
am gonna be extremely critical. I definitely think it looks bad a little bit on Giannis, but I don't know. Maybe Doc Rivers will help him out defensively and help the rest of the team out, because I don't know. Adrian Griffin couldn't do it, at least defensively. Giannis couldn't help his teammates defensively, so who knows? Let's hope it's a good choice.
To give Adrian Griffin some sort of credit here, there were multiple times throughout the season where like things weren't going exactly how the players wanted, like as far as Damian Lillard, like his playing time, his rotations, or the way they played offense, or their defensive principles changed a little bit. And he made the changes when the players asked for it. He did do that. He did do that when they asked for it.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna put it on Adrian Griffin. Like, he had a 30-13 record. He's got them to a winning record, but at some point it does come down to the players as well.
Well, it's also, I sort of also blame the roster building a little bit.
Gotta blame the GM a little bit, yeah.
Not on the Damian Lillard thing. Like, obviously, I would have done the same thing they did. And of course, you're gonna get worse defensively when you trade Drew Holiday for Damian Lillard. But they don't have many other perimeter defenders on their roster. Like, Pat Connaughton has taken a step back this season. Chris Middleton is, as he's getting up there in age and with the injuries, he's not even close to the same player that he was.
You could
even
even
like
go in
2
not as
years
just
ago.
perimeter, but like the interior defense. Brook Lopez has taken a huge step back.
I mean, yeah, at certain points he has. But he's still like, I know I was watching the Cavs Bucks game where they did look better. They did look better on both ends, but it's also like first game after you make a statement move like that, it's kind of expected.
Yeah.
Um, but I know Brook Lopez is like leading the league in contested shots with like 5 more than the next player. So I give him some credit for that, but and it's also like it's a difficult situation for Adrian Griffin. Like not everyone can handle this sort of thing. Like coming in first job, championship or bust with all these moves that you guys have with that the Bucks made.
With a lot, it is good to have. For example, I'm going to shout out the Rockets here. When you bring in a young coach, Ime Udoka, and you have all these young stars, and you're building the team together, that works. But when you have like a first year head coach, like a young head coach like Adrian Griffin, and you have all these veteran stars, like not superstars like all the other guys like Giannis and Dame, but like even stars like a Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, like all these guys that have won a championship there and have proven themselves to be veterans and good in this league. And you're championship or bust. It's not always a recipe for success, and this is a proven point.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe the Bucks were like, "Hey, we've seen first-year coaches get the job done before with a Nick Nurse, Steve Kerr, even Ty Lue. They made the finals with David Blatt, but like, I think the formula is definitely you need a coach with some experience that knows how to handle star power as well. That's one thing that Doc Rivers does know how to do.
Yeah.
He's had to deal with a lot of star power in his locker rooms. We just saw the James Harden, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, the Lob City Clippers, Kawhi and Paul George, the Big Three in Boston. Like it goes on and on and on. So,
again, yeah, probably their best choice.
yeah, for sure. Now we'll see where this can propel them. We'll see if they make another move as far as a trade goes. We know that they have interest in DeJounte Murray, but they don't exactly have that many pieces to trade. But we'll see how that goes because we'll get into a trade that just happened. Sometimes trades happen where not much is given to get a good player.
Talk about a good player too, man.
I know
that man is insane. Terry Rozier.
Let's get into
Miami
it. Let's get into it. Yes, Terry Rozier traded to the Miami Heat. Package for Kyle Lowry going back to the Hornets, as well as a Miami Heat first round pick in 2027 that's lottery protected and then becomes unprotected in 2028. Kyle Lowry, the Hornets are looking to find another deal for him before the trade deadline, but I would expect that he's going to get bought out. Same thing with Gordon Hayward. What do you think about this, man? Terry Rozier in Miami.
I personally think that's a great fit, in my opinion, for Miami. Because what else can I say? Terry Rozier is a bad man. He's been a bad man since Boston. He is a baller. He can hoop. And that is perfect for Miami. That's what they need. He is someone who can run the offense like a Kyle Lowry, can shoot and score better than a Kyle Lowry, especially at least at this age right now. And then, but like, if for example, like if you got players that are out, like if in case Jimmy Butler is out or injury prone Tyler Herro, and you need another scorer, Terry Rozier is that man.
Terry Rozier could definitely win you a game.
He's been good since he's been really good since LaMelo Ball's been hurt for most of the year. And again, but my thing is Charlotte could have got a little more.
That's the thing here. Like, how do you trade him, Terry Rozier, who, like, as crazy as it may sound, like he's one of their best players in franchise history when you look at his rankings on their all-time like leaderboard with points, assists, three-pointers. Like, he's been sensational. Specifically this year, I want to say he's averaging 23 points, 6 assists on the season, shooting like 38% from three, something like that. And you add him to this Heat team that just went to the finals last year. You now have 4 20-point per game scores on the Heat with Jimmy, Bam, Hero, and now Rozier, who is probably he's their sixth man right now. They had him come
Yeah.
off the bench in his first game, and I kind of like it because that's where you had like Kyle Lowry in his role. And Lowry, we should mention, super impactful his first two seasons with Miami, making a conference finals, the NBA finals last year. But
Yeah.
this recent stretch has been absolutely brutal. His last 5 games, um, he's averaged 2 points per game in 25 minutes, and he missed his last 18 3-pointers. It's
That is the complete opposite of what I saw when he was in Cleveland. When we went to that game where he dropped like 20 points and hit like 8 threes.
That one game. But I love it for Miami, man. I think that the fit is great. I think that the fit is great. He can we saw in Boston, one of his main ways of getting on the court was his defense, his perimeter defense. He's always a tenacious defender. And now being in Charlotte, he knows how to facilitate. He can score. He can shoot the three. He just fits their team. And the Heat are suddenly a very deep team, which was not really the case coming into the year. But, like, you have those 420-point scorers like I was just talking about. You have guys like, you have Jaime Jaquez Jr., who's been, a great rookie this year. Caleb Martin was like, he could have won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP last year. You still have Kevin Love on your bench. You still have guys like Josh Richardson, Haywood Highsmith, who are good for that team. Like they're just a good team, and they can plug in any player at any time, and it'll work.
Every single year for the last many, many years, this Miami Heat team may not be a top 4 seed in the East. But come time to the playoffs, nobody wants to play them.
No.
Nobody ever wants to play them in April, May, and June, especially. Yeah. Nobody wants to play them. And then you add this team, and you add Terry Rozier. Not to say that the Cavs and Knicks are going to blow it, but I can easily see this Miami Heat team hopping up to that top 4 seed. And if they get home court advantage and you play them in the playoffs, that's their. And yeah, you said Jaime Jaquez. He's injured right now, but come time to the playoffs, they are going to be a scary, scary team. Perfect for scary Terry.
Yeah, and I love it as well for the Eastern Conference. You have all these teams that are improving throughout the season by getting players. The only team that hasn't made a real move yet in that playoff race is the Orlando Magic. We'll see if they make a move. There are rumors about they're interested in Buddy Hield, which would be cool. But like you look at the East, you have the 7th seed Indiana Pacers. They just traded for Pascal Siakam. The Heat in the 6th seed just traded for Terry Rozier. The Knicks just traded for OG Anunoby. The Cavs are going to eventually get 2 all-star caliber players back in the mix.
Yeah, we're not trading anybody, but we got our second and third best players are going to be coming back in the next month or so.
The Sixers, they made the James Harden deal before they got back some depth pieces, and they're looking good, and they could still make a move. The Bucks they just changed coaches, and Boston's been dominant. They could trade.
I was to say Boston's been the best team in the East consistently this entire year,
and they could still make a move to bolster their bench or whatever. Because I know that's the main thing that people are talking about as far as that team goes. But you have the entire Eastern Conference making moves to their team to get better, and there's still more to be done. The Hornets, all these teams at the bottom are going to be selling with the Hornets, Wizards, and Pistons. Probably the Brooklyn Nets as well. With them struggling, you have DeJounte Murray. The Bulls, we don't know with LaVine, DeRozan, any of those guys.
I'm shocked they haven't made a move yet.
It's getting to a point where the Eastern Conference might be getting right with the West as being like interesting with who could make noise in the playoffs.
The West is still, I would say, the most competitive, mostly just because of the amount of teams that are championship contenders. But the East competitively for that playoff race and all that middle ground, it's as competitive as the West. It is as competitive as the West, at least for all the middle ground and stuff. Like besides the bottom, like 4 teams or so, you have, like you said, anybody of those teams can be in that race, in those top 6 teams.
Yeah, any team in the East could make a trade that significantly changes the landscape of the league, which is crazy to even think about it.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun to watch, and this March is going to be insane. This March is going to be insane.
Yeah, the final lead up to the postseason. Let's go to a team that's in the bottom of the East. We woke up to some news of another coach firing. We'll just call it coach firing.
Firing, yeah.
The Wizards moving on from Wes Unseld Jr. They're going to move him to a role in the front office. Was their head coach for 2 seasons before this one, I believe.
Yeah. Nothing good. Like, he's probably a decent coach, but like there's been no success. They've tried to make moves to switch it up and all that kind of stuff, but nothing to make them super competitive. And this East that continues, like we just said, continues to get even more competitive. But yeah, I'm not surprised by that.
I feel like it's kind of unfair to him this season, because it's like, this was the year you're supposed to tank and be bad anyways.
Yeah. So they didn't have much expectations.
Little strange that happened. That's why I didn't expect I just didn't expect it to happen. But assistant coach Brian Keefe will be promoted to their interim head coach. He's been an assistant coach in the NBA since 2007 for the Thunder, the Knicks, the Lakers, the Nets, and the Wizards. So he knows his way around the NBA. But probably just for the rest of this season, the Wizards will do a comprehensive search for a new head coach in the offseason. We'll see who it is now. Like you were saying earlier, like this is a situation that like a first-year coach is probably good for. Like, hey, Adrian Griffin.
This would be a shot for Adrian Griffin to get right back into the coaching thing, because he has worked with those stars. Like, so he has probably learned a decent chunk, and to grow with these guys, that would be a good situation for him, I think.
Yeah, that'll probably be a job for like an assistant somewhere to get their opportunity, the head coaching gig. But
surprised by it, but
let's move on to some of the games that happened over the last couple days, because it's Rivals Week, and some fun things have happened with the rivalries around the league this week. Joey, what do you want to talk about first?
I want to talk about one of the first rival games that I at least saw was the Battle of New York. Brooklyn versus New York Knicks. Brooklyn had like a double-digit lead with 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and completely blew it out of the water. I'm not surprised by it. Brooklyn's not a great team. New York's a really good team now. But I don't know. What I also didn't like was I forget who it was. It might have been Mikal Bridges, but he even shouted out the Brooklyn crowd. He's like, it's hard to play a game when like, for example, they even showed like a clip of him shooting free throws, and the amount of boos. It was an away game for Brooklyn, which you're not surprised about.
No, it's not at all.
But like, that's why I'm a little shocked that he called him out, and I don't like that. I don't like when players call out their fans, because you make your living out of it from the fans. But again, I was just a little shocked that, like, I thought Brooklyn would at least want that, because that is kind of a little rivalry, and if they want to put themselves on the map, and if they want to keep themselves competitive, that's a game against a good team that you had the lead in the fourth quarter. You have to win that game, especially with the news that you said came out just a little bit ago, right before we started the pod, that Ben Simmons just started practicing.
Yes.
And he could come back as early as next Monday, which I'm a big Ben Simmons hater, so I'm not super optimistic about it. But if you want to be competitive in this East that we just keeps on getting better and better and better, those are the type of games you want. You need to win. You need to win those games.
Yeah, 100%. Something with the Nets that I just saw on Twitter here, and this is from a reliable analyst, Jake Weinbach. I don't know if that's how you pronounce your name, but in a potential 3-team trade that could happen. This is the first that I've really seen this sort of deal on the table, but it's the DeJounte Murray sweepstakes, with him going to the Lakers, D'Angelo Russell going back to Brooklyn, where he was an all-star, and Spencer Dinwiddie and draft picks to Atlanta. Which I don't mind, man. I don't mind. Especially Dinwiddie's on an expiring deal. You could just get him off your books if you're Atlanta.
Yeah. That's probably what they want to do.
That'd be interesting if that's actually what ended up happening.
I'd be okay with that deal. I don't like DeJounte going to the Lakers. I think he would be a better fit somewhere else, personally. But I don't know. That's not a bad trade, especially from the Brooklyn Nets perspective. Get Dinwiddie off the books, come in with a player that has been playing better, and D'Angelo Russell. You get him back. He's been there before. He kind of knows. I think that would be a better trade for them.
Yeah, for sure.
What about you? What kind of game caught your eye these last couple of days?
What?
What kind of games caught your eye these last couple of days?
Well, of course, there's the head-to-head stuff with like Chet and Wemby, the Suns Mavericks, but I want to take some time to talk about one of the most insane finishes to a game I've seen in a long time, and it was from a game that probably no one was watching with the Portland Trail Blazers and Oklahoma City Thunder, but Chauncey Billups in the final 30 seconds of a close game gets ejected because the officials did not see him calling a timeout. If you have not seen it, go check out the final minute of that game because it was incredible.
Chauncey Billups was running down that sideline, yelling at them to call a timeout, and Brogdon gets double teamed. Then he moves and dribbles. He obviously gets called for a double dribble because the refs are blind and don't see and they don't hear Chauncey Billups. And then Chauncey Billups just goes absolutely ballistic.
I would too.
Rightfully so. They were up by 1 with like the shot clock was off. It was like 20 seconds left in the game. The shot clock was off. They were up by 1. They just needed to dribble the ball out. And what happens? They get trapped. You call a timeout. That's like a common play. I can't believe the refs missed that.
Yeah, they definitely should have been at least prepared for it, like at the very least.
Did you see that they are that the Portland Trailblazers are appealing?
Yes, they are protesting this outcome of the game, which I think is kind of crazy considering well, first of all, you're the Blazers. You should probably want to lose this game.
Yes.
But
you are tanking, aren't you?
Yeah, but I like it though. I like that. It shows it. I mean, they were definitely passionate about it because we have to remember the last time that the Blazers played in OKC, the Thunder beat them by like 60 points. No exaggeration. It might have even been bigger than that. I'm gonna look that up right now, but that was just incredible.
But yeah, no, this was and that's the thing. This is a huge win for the Thunder too, because like we're talking about the Portland, but like that Thunder win put them in first place.
They are now number 1 in the West.
They are now number 1 in the West. Which would have been, honestly, to me, that would have been hilarious if you have Minnesota lose to one of the worst teams in Charlotte, then you have the Thunder lose to one of the worst teams in Portland. Like both top 2 seeds in the West lose to terrible garbage teams.
I know, that would have been that would have been hilarious. But I do definitely have to give a huge shout out to Jalen Williams, who did end up hitting the game-winning shot. Great pull-up shot, but I'm trying to find this stat because it just caught my eye so much. Yeah, Jalen Williams is the clutchest player in the league this year.
Really?
With that shot, he ranks number 1 in clutch field goal percentage, and in the clutch, that's defined as final 5 minutes in a 5-point game. He shoots a whopping 73% from the field in the clutch, which is just incredible. So efficient in the clutch. That's just great for the Thunder when in these like close games, because they're always in close games. You have Shea, who's an MVP candidate. He can get any shot he wants. Chet is a 7-foot unicorn. He can get whatever shot he wants. And you have J-Dub, who could be arguably your second, third option.
You need a player like that, especially if you're going to, even though you are 1 seed in the West, nobody expected the Thunder to be that good. But if you want to be that good and be that good in the playoffs, that is exactly the player that you want. A guy that, like, not necessarily your top two players, but a guy that, or like you said, your third best player and your third option that can go down and knock down that clutch shot. For example, if they are double teaming Chet and Shea when it comes down to the last shot of the game.
Yeah.
You give it to Jay Wilt, you give it to J Dub, and he's got it. You have full confidence in him. That does so much for a team, and this young team like OKC Thunder. Oh my goodness. That is a whopping stat I did not know. Nearly 80%
on clutch shots. And he's taken a lot of them. He's taken a lot of them, and they've played in a lot of them. I'm sure heading into next season, I'm sure fans will definitely, like, when we talk about, like, who will be a first-time All-Star next season, he'll be a candidate for sure. Because even just, I want to find his numbers on the season because...
Well, they do have the Clutch Player of the Year award. He's got to be the front runner then if he's got that.
He could potentially. But, like, this year, he is averaging... This is only his second year in the league, by the way. This guy is 22 years old. He's averaging 19 points, 4 boards, 4 assists per game, shooting 54% from the field, 44% from 3, and 82.5% from the free throw line. He can score from all areas, and he's just a great young player.
What was his do you know his stats from last year? Because that sounds like most improved numbers for me.
Last year he was at 14, 4, and 3 on solid efficiency as well. Yeah, if he picks it up, definitely.
I was about to say, but if you're talking about that's, to me at least, most improved numbers, especially when you go from a team like the Thunder, they surprised a lot of people being a play-in playoff team last year, and people thought they would be a play-in playoff team this year.
They've shocked us all.
And then they've shocked everybody. And yes, Shai Gilgeous is playing just as good as he did last year, if not better. Then you add a former number 2 overall pick in Chet. But you got to point to J Dub. You got to point nearly 20 points a game.
Yeah, he's
out of a guy nobody was talking about. Josh Giddey's been more talked about in that team than probably J Dub.
Yeah, probably accurate.
For the wrong reasons, but...
Yeah, as we're talking about the Thunder, let's talk about them last night, them versus the Spurs, Chet versus Wemby, the two front runners in the Rookie of the Year race, and they were playing it up, man. Even though in the fourth quarter the Thunder were up by like 30 points, they were going back and forth.
You could not tell. You cannot tell. This was a big, and we called it too. We were talking about the games that we're like, this could come down to a Rookie of the Year race, and they played like it. They played like it. Even though OKC was blowing them out and you knew they were going to win, you didn't have to tell Wemby that. You didn't have to tell Chet that. Like, they were going at it like it was a 2-point game and it was just a 1v1.
Yeah, and the benches and the crowd were all playing into it too. It was a lot of fun.
I cannot wait for to watch those two guys go at each other for the next 5 to 10 years.
I know with the way those teams are shaking up, like if the Spurs are able to build around Wemby in the next few years, which I'm sure they will, they've given me no reason to not believe in them. This is going to be a great Western Conference rivalry for years to come. And they were a good rivalry. Rivalry like when it was, the Durant and Westbrook versus the Tim Duncan, Kawhi, like late Spurs. But they would face each other in the playoffs like nearly every year. Like I know they played in a few conference finals, big second rounds. Like
especially
they
with those
each other
a
lot in the older ages or whatever you want to call it.
Older ages, man. That was only 10 years ago. Makes me feel old.
It's crazy to think that was even 10 years ago. That does not feel that long ago.
No, 10 years ago, 2014 was that Thunder versus Kawhi, and that was the last time we probably saw that Thunder team like that.
Yeah,
that rivalry has a little bit of historic value to it, and you're just going to add to it with these two guys. These NBA scriptwriters are on something.
we have to talk about the Suns Mavericks game as well. This was another
Speaking of script writers.
This was another one that was a bit of a blowout in the second half because Devin Booker just took over for the Suns. He had like 46 points. He's been on an incredible stretch. He's trying to make his case to the coaches that he should be in the All-Star game. But in the first quarter, we had a little kerfuffle skirmish.
Well, it was like the first 5 minutes. Grant Williams and KD were just ready to put on the boxing gloves and go 12 in the ring.
Grant Williams, Durant, and Yusuf Nurkic.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
And the thing is, we all thought it was going to be like a Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, because they have some history. Like, this is two teams that you don't expect a huge rivalry out of. But ever since Doncic got there and the rise of Devin Booker and the rise of both of them, this is turning into like not always just a insane rivalry like team wise, because like you said, the Suns pulled away because Devin Booker went off, but a physical rivalry, like physical rivalry. Yeah. This is the one that you're going to get some extracurriculars out of.
We even saw like in the second, it might have been the second quarter, earlier in the second quarter, Kevin Durant was kind of playing into it too. Like Luka, something happened. Luka just walked away with the ball, and Durant was trying to get it and all that stuff. So it's always fun to see those rivalries. I hope you can even.
You can even see it in the press conference. Like Luka Doncic was even getting testy with a reporter and all that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, because there was a Mavericks fan that was saying demonstrative stuff to Luka, so he got ejected.
Is horrible. We always don't condone that, and they should have got ejected, which they did. But even though you can tell, man, that those two teams are not gonna like each other, and they don't like each other. The fans don't like each other. The players don't like each other.
No,
it's that's my kind of rivalry that I like. The one where you get the extracurriculars. I know that's not everyone's taste because you like to see just the close games, the 7-game series, like these, just a heavyweight battle. But I like the heavyweight battle where the fisticuffs come out.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we could get Suns Mavericks in the playoffs somehow. That it's kind of unlikely unless both of those teams are somehow in a play-in, or the way it would be right now is the Mavericks in the 8th seed would have to upset the Thunder, and the Suns would have to upset the Clippers. Like a bunch of things would have to happen in order for the Suns and Mavs to occur. But that would be sensational.
That would be so much fun.
I want to see when they play their next few games.
I was gonna say that's something we got to mark in our calendars every single time, and that everybody should. Same with the Chet Wemby. This rivalry week has been. I know, like this is like they've been trying to do it for the last couple of years, but man, they are kind of nailing it on the coffin this time.
And there's still a few more. I was
gonna say there's a lot of good games left this week.
Yeah. So their next matchup is the day after the All-Star break. Ooh. Suns Mavericks on TNT, and at the same time Clippers Thunder. So we got a couple of fun ones coming out of the All-Star break.
Right after the All-Star break.
Which, speaking of which, we are recording this before TNT has gone on and revealed the All-Star starters. So we're not able to cover that because, unfortunately we can't, go to the future and come back or whatever. We're not that cool yet.
Yeah, sorry.
But we'll have that for you in the next episode.
Next episode.
I mean, it's pretty set who the starters will be. It's just like it'll most likely be Halliburton, Giannis, Tatum, and Embiid in the East, where we're unsure if it'll be Mitchell or Brunson. That's probably who it's between. I think Mitchell. In my opinion, Mitchell has played his way into locking up that spot because of how he's led the Cavs. But Brunson's been incredible as well, so it could go.
I'm not going to be mad either way. Whoever they go, Brunson might get it just because he's New York. But in my opinion, I'm with you. And again, could be a little biased, but not with the Cavs losing last night. We had one of the highest win streaks, and one of the most recent highest win streaks, going like 8-9 games, and Donovan Mitchell has been carrying us.
Yeah.
Well, Donovan Mitchell and Sam Merrill. Sorry. Shout out
Jared Allen. He's probably like the best. He's going to be like the best East forward to not make it.
He's set I was gonna say some Cavs news. He's set a Cavs franchise record of most doubles in a row.
Yeah, it's good that he has it now instead of Drummond in his one half season.
I forgot about that.
What a time!
If you would have told me to guess who that was, I probably would have said like a Kevin Love or a LeBron. I definitely not would have thought Andre Drummond.
Even though he is he might make the Hall of Fame just because he's so good at rebounding.
Yeah, Agreed.
But with the All-Star starter thing, we should preface as well, like, I mean, I'm sure we have the same opinion on this.
Yeah.
It does not matter who starts the game versus who comes off the bench, because when you look at on a resume, it doesn't say, oh, LeBron James, 19-time All-Star starter, 1 time off the bench, or whatever it is. It just says 20-time
No.
All-Star. It does not
Yep.
matter.
Nope. All-Star starters, it's fun for everybody at the moment, but when in the long term of things,
No
as
one
long as you don't get
remembers.
as long in the long term of things, when you're looking at Hall of Fame resumes or resumes of who's the greatest and all that kind of stuff, you're just looking at who made the All-Star team. So if you get snubbed, then you have a gripe. That's the conversation to have, not the starters.
Yeah, no one besides like a sicko like me is gonna remember that Kemba Walker started an All-Star game.
Yeah, literally.
Or Klay Thompson started an All-Star game because of a Kobe Bryant injury. Like, no one remembers that stuff. But
no,
moving to like the Western Conference, it'll probably be Shea, either Steph or Luka, depending on how the players and coaches vote it.
LeBron,
I would say then LeBron, Durant, and Embiid, or not Embiid,
Jokic. Shout out for the All-Star. Did you see the new jerseys?
I did see the new jerseys. I'm a fan.
I am a big fan. Probably the best jerseys since the All-Star game was in Toronto, because those jerseys I really loved. The ones where they had the maple leaf on it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, those were good jerseys.
Because to me, the All-Star jerseys haven't been that good, especially within the last like 10 or so years. But the one in Toronto, that one sticks out to me, and this one as well. I love the pinstripes. It's old school. It is old school. It is Indiana.
Old school Indiana. That's like, if you told me that, what would the All-Star jerseys be for Indiana? This is what I would picture.
Yeah.
Like these look just like the Reggie Miller Pacer jerseys, but just not red and blue, but yellow and blue.
They look so clean.
So clean for sure. Before we get out of here, let's talk a little bit about the about some USA basketball. The final player pool of players that can get selected for the USA team for the Olympics just got announced. I'm trying to pull up the player pool. I had it on my phone, but now it's gone. But there are a lot of great names on there. A lot of great names on there.
Yes, I do have it. They announced the 41 player pool. Only 12 are going to be on it. But shout out Grant Hill, who is the managing director of the USA team, who came out with the list. Some big names on it. You got Devin Booker, Jalen Brunson, Butler, Curry, Davis, Durant. Embiid is on there, which is
Team USA,
is a little bit, you can say, controversial, because he's obviously, I'm happy that if he's playing for Team USA, but
heck yeah.
But to be real, he probably should have picked his home country. At least I'm a fan of that, at least to make it more competitive, because that, for me, watching it, even though the last few years and the last big competitions with Team USA have not been great to us, so that's why all these big names, because the last time, which was, what was it, last year was the World Cup, we finished 4th. We had no all NBA players. Like, nobody that won an all NBA was on an all NBA team was on there, and we finished 4th. So you got all these big names. Chris Paul's on there. LeBron is on there. So you're going to get LeBron, probably all of his buddies, all these big names.
Yeah, going on with big names, you got Paul George, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Trae Young. Like, there are a lot of great names. It'll just depend on like who really wants to go for it. I'm guessing that whoever, unless it's from a player that's already committed, like LeBron or Curry.
Yeah.
Which they're probably not making the NBA Finals either. If a team makes the NBA Finals, that team, their best player probably won't compete in it. I wouldn't expect, unless it's like Giannis and Jokic are always patriotic for their countries.
Yeah, they're going to be in it no matter what. Unless they are injured, they are playing it. And again, this is without injuries. So, if any of these guys get injured, and like you said, with the finals, which is what happened to LeBron back in 2016, for the Olympics. Was
Yeah.
why he didn't do it, because we made the finals.
He wanted some rest, but they'll be coached by Steve Kerr, head coach, and then main assistants are Mark Few from Gonzaga University, Teron Liu, and Eric Spoelstra. So it is a good staff. It is a good staff.
Yeah. I am excited to watch the Olympics. I'm excited to watch Team USA redeem themselves, because hopefully we won't have like the names like a Mikal Bridges and Austin Reeves be your leading two guys. And that's why we finished fourth. Shout out to them, because they're good players, but that's not it. Even with how good and talented the USA is, you're not going to win the World Cup. There are plenty of other teams.
Many teams that are playing, with each other for way more times than just a summer.
I know what year were you born, Miles?
I was born in 04, so I was born the year of.
You were literally born the year I was about to mention, where in 2004 in the Olympics in Athens was when we finished bronze. So, like,
we've seen how 08, 12, and 16 have gone though afterwards though.
But we cannot, especially that's why I'm like very excited, because this team is going to be the most talented we've seen since those teams.
It's going to be so much fun to watch, man.
It's going to be must-watch TV. Oh,
for sure.
I can't wait.
You got anything else that you want to go over here before we get out of here?
I don't think so. I think that is going to wrap up this two-man episode with you. It was a lot of fun doing it with just us two. A lot of fun. No screaming goggling. No non-voice Nick, which again, hope he feels better, and hopefully Goglin has some peace and quiet eventually.
Yeah, we'll get both of you guys back for the next episode. We're definitely thinking of you always.
Next episode we'll definitely be talking about the All-Star starters.
And these weekend games, maybe more trades, like
a lot.
I don't know if it could get more hectic than these last few days, but I would not complain if it was, because it's been awesome to cover all this.
Agreed. Well, listen to us on Spotify. Give us a follow. Give us a rating. Let us know in the comments. Like and subscribe on YouTube.
For sure. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will be back on Tuesday with another episode. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in the next one.
Peace.